At first, I wasn't sure what this was. I know we got the hidden teaser in 3, and soon after we did get the full reveal on what they were hinting at. But it wasn't hard to tell this was something completely new and a bit of its own thing. Kind of what we saw with Darksiders Genesis, Travis Strikes Again, Ninja Gaiden on the DS, Wonderful 101, and now Bayonetta. I've always liked these since it has to adapt the franchise's key mechanics to this new camera or use this chance to get a bit experimental with the action game formula to really mix things up. So even though it's not the usual we've come to expect from Bayonetta, I still want to cover here just by association. And honestly, I never heard anyone talk about it after it came out, so I'm in the dark just as much as you are. So let's see what we're missing out on. This is Combat Overview. Here we go over the general controls, the main mechanics, who or what we use them on, and then seeing how it all comes together. Something I didn't really think about even though I did notice it, but there's 2 characters on screen, and it's a single player game. So yeah, you're controlling both at the same time by yourself. If you ever played Brothers, then it's like that. Cereza is controlled with the left thumbstick and Cereza is moved with the right one. Tap your head, rub your belly type of game already. Well, when it comes to our base attacks, Cereza has the least here. But for now, she can hold things down with her Thorn Bind. Hold the left trigger and it'll lock your last facing direction to bind an enemy that's caught inside the circle. At first, you can only tie one down, but you can upgrade to do it to multiple at once, reduces cooldown, or slow an enemy as you're binding them. And yeah, like I said, this does run on a cooldown, shown by this circle filling back up, which adds a stock underneath, allowing you to bind again. And that's it. Straightforward in this one, but Cereza has a lot more options to work with. He has his basic slash combo. You can hold it at any time to do this pounce. And combining that with Cereza's bind will do the splash damage follow-up. There's even an upgrade to do this tornado afterwards. But that's not all, because as you progress through the story, you'll unlock elemental forms for Cereza that you can swap between with the face buttons, which all have their own unique ability and passive of some kind. There's wood form, having this leash grab with his tongue. It can yank these shields away to fling them back, pull down flying enemies, or to twirl enemies dazing them. Stone can do this crowd control slam. This can stomp those burrowing enemies out of the ground. You also have hyper armor with this so you won't be interrupted, basically taking hits from melee attacks, beams, explosions, and so on. Water can shoot this powerful beam, can clear any fire from the field or take off fire shields. And lastly, fire. Shoots out these projectiles, can use this to rid ice shields on enemies or walk through fire. Now again, there's more, because you can swap between those elemental forms during combos and dodges. We can style switch pretty much with Cereza. So if the enemy is putting flames on the floor or a bomb is coming your way or you need to leash yank something, you can do that on the fly. And when you do swap styles, you go instantly into its combo ender, so you'll start off swinging. You just need to keep an eye on its magic gauge, because a lot of Cereza options like using their unique ability, from the leash to the stomp and so on, will use meter. Even getting hit will lower this meter as well. You can still use him when it's on empty, but once you take a hit, he'll go back into his doll form, having Cereza run and pick him up. Now to avoid using too much meter or avoid some attacks, press the left bumper to call Cereza back into his doll form. This is hug mode. This will recharge his meter and becomes easier to move around a bit. And then press the right bumper to have the two move independently of each other again. Onto defenses, just like before, Cereza has the simplest tools. Click in the left thumbstick, doing a little roll. Full iframes on it and just a way to get out of a tight spot. No witch time, way too early for that right now, but this roll is a start. Now for Cereza, he has a perfect card. Timing it of course will do a counter. Can do it back to back, and there's even a follow-up attack. Uses a bit of his gauge to use it, and you can only do this while in his normal form. So no elemental ones have access to this. But what every stance can use is this sidestep. Click in the right thumbstick doing a full invulnerable maneuver, and yep, there's a follow-up attack with this too, letting you close back in. Looking at the HUD, the flower petals on the left is our health, and on the right we can see what forms Cereza is in. Pretty much it other than our healing items. When it comes to enemies, ones with swords, they have that nice wind up and glare to look out for. You can perfect guard to daze them, use the vine tongue, or use bind to stop them. There's some who lay down bear traps, can use Cereza while in hug mode to set them off safely, Because if you or Cereza step into them, someone's going to get stuck and gotta be freed by the other one. There's also ones who shoot a single cannon, can perfect guard it to reflect it, bind them, or go into stone mode to walk through traps or body block the shots back too. Ones with a shield, combine them to get behind them. And with that little hook on the shield, that means you can each grab it while in wood form to toss it back, or you can perfect guard their bash, dazing them. Even a mage who really likes to focus on Cereza with the tracking bolt. But yeah, as you beat them down, these enemies go into a weakened state. Once you see this bite icon above them, hold the right trigger to prep Cereza's finishing chomp to instantly take him down. There's a few more, but with just these right here, you can see how they got that 1-for-101 design to them, where there's multiple ways to tackle them. Which is good since depending on how the grouping is, it makes you prioritize in certain ways and you can tackle them however you want. And that's Bayonetta Origins. Wow, this game is amazing. Very different, sure, but as soon as I started it, I instantly fell into its world and premise because of its storybook presentation, the art direction, and the cute new redesigns. It was kind of cool to see a younger Cereza in training, because even though she's not the Bayonetta yet, she's still her headstrong self wanting to take on any challenge, even if she isn't fully prepared for it, bit in over her head at times.
I'm going to be strong too, but I'm going to do it with style, unlike some creatures I could name.
All of a sudden, a tough-looking fairy appeared out of nowhere. Cereza was startled, but tried to regain her composure.
Why don't you flock off already and leave us alone?
Hey, you get to see that growth yourself. You go to these little dungeons with a bit of puzzle solving, some platforming, and a bit of combat. They do it all in these pretty much using all the mechanics in a few ways. They have you juggle both characters and in some fashion using all the forms at different timings. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And at the end, you usually get some sort of permanent upgrade, which this all leads up to clear the path to those major stages where they have their own unique gimmicks to them. So there's some variety here. To me, it's a more refined 1-for-101 because it pushes the envelope of what everything can do a good bit, but doesn't go way crazy with it. Like 101 where half the gameplay switch-ups were pretty iffy. But yeah, once you beat the game, you can continue to explore for more missed collectibles. There's a ton of extra costumes, a whole side story playing as Jean. This I didn't expect at all, but super fun. Short, but fun. And you unlock a new difficulty mode. There was only one by default, but now there's one aimed to us action game fans. So great to hop back in for another challenging run, which I did instantly. Because with the first playthrough, I was 100% invested, especially the story. And if you know me, that's saying a lot. One of the main reasons was the art direction, like I mentioned. It's just way too good. So I had to see it as much as I could. And that VO too, I think the narrator is the real MVP here. She got me hooked because of that delivery. Honestly, got caught up in the story's roller coaster of emotions. It was that good.
What? Who are you?
Chomp!
But yeah, it really does put things into perspective that, yeah, Cereza was only a kid, you know, when she lost her mother. The game goes into that a bit more and gets pretty sad when you see how that affects her. Now all she has left is her favorite toy, possessed by a demon. Just an oddball duo learning from one another along the way. There's more to it, but yeah, it's a pretty touching story. You know what, I'll go as far as to say it's a must play. Not just for a Switch exclusive, but in general. It just does so much so well. The art direction, story, music, tone, gameplay, its overall progression, and so much more. With this callbacks to Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and that overall fairy tale angle it has going on too. It's very familiar in that way. Kind of nostalgic, you know? Well, to wrap things up, Bayonetta Origins is cute, creative, and outright charming. Might be a different pace than where she started, but it's a very welcomed one. So if you can play this, by all means definitely give it a try. It's a rabbit hole worth falling into.
Cereza sang him a lullaby she remembered from long ago.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand.